Let's start the part 2 of the mechanical transformation and the birth of capitalism. So, there were few money-related and regulatory assets to give fundamental urban administrations like police security, water and sewer, or rubbish transfer. One source portrays these unused cities as takes after. The unused urban agglomerations were boring places, darkened with the overwhelming sediment of the early coal age, settling alike on plants and the workers' quarters, which were dull at best, for the climate of the Midlands is not sunny. Lodging for specialists was hurriedly built, closely stuffed and continuously in brief supply, as in all quickly developing communities. Entirety families lived in single rooms, and family life tended to crumble. A police officer in Glasgow watched that there were entirety pieces of apartments in the city, each swarming with 1,000 worn-out children who had to begin with names, as it were, more often than not nicknames, like creatures, as he put point 2 in mechanical transformation, and the birth of Capitalism 43 work in the manufacturing plants was tenacious and terrible. Production line hands regularly had performed the same errand over and over once more, with few breaks or changes, amid workdays up to 14 hours long. The work was organized to be quick, facilitated, and seriously, so there was small opportunity for socializing. The French women's activist in communist vegetation Tristan, after going by Britain, composed that in English production lines, there isn't any singing, chatting, or giggling. The ace does not need his laborers occupied for diminutive by any updates of his life. He requests quiet, and a dangerous quiet there is. 3 of the plants were as a rule fueled by coal, which implied that the industrial facilities, interior and out, were regularly secured and dark clean. Compensation were ordinarily so moved that a man might not bolster his spouse and children. Subsequently, children, a few of them as youthful as 6 a long time ancient, regularly had to work in the industrial facilities as well. The brutal conditions of working-class life in Britain in the 19th century were immortalized in the works of Charles Dickens, as in his books Oliver Bend and Difficult Times. Dickens himself was an item of this environment. His father was nearly continually in obligation, and when he was tossed into debtor's jail, Dickens was constrained to take off school at the age of 12 and go to work in a bootblack production line to offer assistance bolster his family. The concentration of laborers in cities and industrial facilities had political results as well. The cramped and messy working situations of the industrial facilities made both pressure and the opportunity for laborers to assemble and talk about these conditions and their common predicament. As laborers picked up a sense of solidarity and potential control, they organized labor unions. Indeed, in spite of the fact that these were formally unlawful in Britain sometime recently 1825, and the strike remained illicit for numerous a long time after that. Dreading the potential of insurgency, Parliament passed a Discretionary Change Act in 1832 that multiplied the voters. But indeed with that, as there were 1 in 5 grown-up, male citizens was able to vote. In 1838, a working-class gatherer called the Chartists drew up a People's Constitution, which requested all-inclusive suffrage for all grown-up guys and the annulment of property prerequisites for chosen individuals of Parliament. Indeed, in spite of the fact that over 1 million individuals marked a request to the House of Commons in back of the Constitution, the Commons rejected it, and it was another 30 a long time, sometime recently suffrage was essentially expanded in Britain. This disappointment of the direct, parliamentary course to labor change caused numerous laborers to turn toward more radical arrangements, counting the thoughts of communism and the progressive oust of capitalism. Friedrich Engels, 1820 to 1895, the German-born supervisor of a Manchester cotton trade, given a vital connect between industrialization and communism. Indeed, in spite of the fact that he was on the best of mechanical chain of command, Engels was stunned by the destitution of the city and composed an account of his perceptions that was distributed as a condition of the Working Course 44, Chapter 3 in Britain, 1844. In the blink of an eye, a short time later, he met and gotten to know individual German Karl Marx and brought him to Britain, where he started subsidizing Marx's Inquire About and composing. He presented Marx to a few pioneers of the Chartist development. In 1848, Marx and Engels collaborated in creating the Communist Declaration, which finished with the express workers of all nations unite. This was one of the begin with steps in the arrangement of the communist development, which would come full circle in 1917 with the Russian transformation. Communism was fair one of the isms that risen and begin with half of the 19th century. The period saw multiplication conventions and developments of all sorts. More individuals were going to be included in society and in social and political issues, and they started considering more methodically approximately societal issues. Hence, the words liberalism, radicalism, socialism, and nationalism all showed up and begin with time in English utilization between 1820 and 1850. Sentimentalism was too born in this period, in spite of the fact that, not at all like the political isms, it was a development in writing and the expressions. Sentimentalism was a response both to the Illumination and to the two transformations of the 18th century, dismissing both the immaculate reason of the edification and looking for rest from the cruel political and social results of the French and mechanical insurgencies. Sentimental people focused the significance of sentiments and feelings, as well as reason, and accepted that the world might not be caught on totally on the premise of reason and logical proof. Sentimentalism influenced specialists and scholars all over Europe, blooming in the beginning with decades of the 19th century with writers such as the German Johann Goethe Faust, the Frenchman Victor Hugo Les Miserables, Alexander Pushkin in Russia, and the English writer Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Wordsworth Ruler Byron, and Alfred Ruler Tennyson. Numerous of these scholars battled with the vague comes about of mechanical insurgency and the pressures between convention and alter. Industry had created gigantic riches in advance, but it too created hopelessness and distance. These were issues and pressures that would stand up to Europeans for years to come. The effect of mechanical insurgency, started in Britain, but spread rapidly to the rest of the world. In spite of the fact that the most imperative early developments happened in Britain, others taken after somewhere else. In the joined together states, there was Robert Fulton's steamship and Cyrus McCormick's collector, which revolutionized the gathering of wheat, as well as the advancement of chemical fertilizers by Justus von Liebig and other German chemists. The railroad, the mechanical insurgency, and the birth of capitalism 45 spread like a spiderweb all over Europe, connecting the landmass together. It quickened the western regional development of the joined together states and the eastern extension of Russia, which happened at around the same time. In Germany, pig press generation quadrupled between 1825 and 1860. French coal and press yield both multiplied in the same period. In 1837, 19-year-old Victoria rose to the English position of royalty. She was to run the show for the another 60 for a long time, and that period has come to be related with her title, the Victorian period. By the time of Victoria's crowning liturgy, the mechanical time was well beneath way in Britain, and the recently rising center lesson was coming to overwhelm British society and shape its framework of values. In spite of the fact that industrialism and urbanization may have been difficult on the working course, it brought numerous benefits and numerous changes to the center course. Numerous more customer merchandise were presently accessible to those who may manage them, and manufacturing plants were active creating luxury merchandise that had already been open, as it were, to nobility. Libraries, theaters, and ensembles were springing up in the cities to give middle-class amusement, and most major cities had their claimed daily papers. As portion of the financial change, sex parts were being reimagined, though in the pre-industrial time a family frequently worked together in the field or in bungalow businesses. Presently the man was going to work in the city, and his spouse was anticipated to take care of the domestic and boxed 3.2 Tennyson's Locksley Hall, a classic lyric of the sentimental period. Alfred Ruler Tennyson's Locksley Hall, 1842, outlines the crude feelings and interests a youthful adore and makes clash perceptions around the human circumstance amid the mechanical insurgency. In the lyric, the speaker, a part of the English nobility, returns to his ancient domestic on the ocean and thinks back almost falling in cherish with Amy. In the spring, a youthful man's favor delicately turns to contemplations of love, at that point being rejected by her for a darling her guardians found more appropriate. Oh, my Amy, mine no more, slash of the inauspicious moorland. Oh, the fruitless shore. Tennyson at that point draws the association between the positive thinking of youthful adore and the societal positive thinking of the early 19th century. Men, my brothers, men the laborers, ever harvesting something new, as it were be filled with questions and disillusionment, and the longing for summer isles of Eden, where methinks will be satisfaction more than in this walk of intellect, slash in the steamship, in the railroad, in the contemplations that shake mankind. In conclusion, in spite of the fact that he select for good faith in advance, with a gesture to the railroad, not an unsuccessful to remove signals. Forward let's extend, / let the extraordinary world turn forever down the ringing grooves of change. 46 Chapter 3 Children. In spite of the fact that numerous working-class ladies remained in the workforce until late in the 19th century, Victorian values managed the significance of difficult work, indeed more than ability, and the soundness and robustness of the atomic family. Sentimental relational unions got to be the standard, and family sizes developed littler. Middle-class standards and Victorian values overwhelmed British society for most of the 19th century and made a difference keep up relative soundness and thriving in that nation. Underneath the lacquer, be that as it may, were smoldering grievances and pressures, as delineated in the works of Dickens, Engels, and the sentimental writers. It was on the landmass of Europe, in any case, or maybe then in Britain, where the French transformation unleashed numerous of these pressures and the mechanical transformation came to a head.